Yeah. So first things first. Yeah, I have been following this whole, for months, obviously, with and uh, Ice Cube and the contract for Black America, and uh, him sort of becoming this figure, this sort of luminous figure, almost like a dark horse in the whole situation, coming in, um, sort of like as things were kind of, I don't know, I don't want to sort of load the question or the comment, but just to say that, yeah, he's like a dark horse who's come into a race which was very unexpected. I think that's fair to say. And and then just seeing how things progress, and then obviously once that woman from the Trump advisory team tweeted that Cube helped with the platinum plan, it then kind of like all hell broke loose, and it was just, everybody has an opinion, and there's a lot of questions and things. So I guess first things first, what are your overall thoughts on how things have kind of progressed, or you have all these conversations, you also have criticisms and things like that. What are your overall thoughts?
I think that all the criticism on Ice Cube is very confusing. It's not confusing when you look at the history of us as slaves. This is slave talk. Slave talk to me is when you are trying to criticize a guy for just having a conversation, for just being a part of a negotiation. Ice Cube never came out and endorsed Trump. He never said, I'm a Trump guy. He never did any of that. He just went and had a conversation. And the people they should be really upset with is not Ice Cube. They should be upset with the Democrats, because the Democrats are the people he went to first. They're the ones he was trying to negotiate with. And they basically told him to go, suck a dick. They basically said, fuck you. We don't care. We don't, we don't need to do anything for Black people. And I'm just trying to understand how you're mad at Ice Cube for exercising options that all of us should be exercising. It just doesn't make any sense. The Democrats are the ones who, if the Democrats had done what they were supposed to do, then he would never have had to go talk to the other administration. But if they give you no options and you fold to that, then what does that really say about you, as an individual, as a community? Like it's basically you're basically becoming a white supremacist. You're leaning and bowing to Joe Biden white supremacy by saying, okay, master, you're not giving me any options, so I'm just going to stand down and get behind something I don't believe in. That is the epitome of slavery, in my opinion. So I think the behavior is also driven heavily by fear. We've been led to fear Donald Trump so much that people are willing to give up all freedoms to get him out of office. They're willing to support one racist to get rid of another racist. And it's really politics one-on-one. I'm not surprised that it works on the masses, because that's what they do in every election. But there are some of us who just, aren't falling for the game. We're not falling for the okie doke.
Okay. So, well, let me just say that they basically said, we'll meet you after the election, right? They that's kind of what they said. Well, that's definitely what they said. With Trump, what, I mean, you can't speak for, wait, I don't want to jump too far ahead. Actually, yes, I do. Yes, I do. What makes him Trump? My thing is, what makes what he says, how can you trust someone? How can you trust whatever Donald Trump says?
It's not a matter of trusting Donald Trump. It's really a matter of saying we can't trust none of these people. None of these people are our friends. I think when you start with that basic assumption, then you get to the point of saying, okay, I'm dealing with enemy A or enemy B. How do I just make sure I get something out of the deal? And I think that some of it comes from the fact that if you look at the Black community, we are a fatherless community. We're viewed as a fatherless community that's lost its masculine men, right? We are a feminized community. And at least that's the way people negotiate with us. And in a feminized space, love matters more than respect. Among men would rather be feared than loved. Men would rather be respected than loved a lot of times. Whereas women, in some cases, not all cases, but a lot of women would rather be loved than respected. So we're looking for the politician who loves us, or at least pretends like they love us, and the one that can make us feel safe. A person that is insecure needs to be loved and they need to feel safe. And that's what Joe Biden is promising. We love you and we're going to make you safe. We're going to protect you from things. If you look at their ads and the language used in all their ads, the ads are based on, we're going to protect you from this, protect you from that. We're going to protect you from Trump. We're going to protect you from the police. We're going to protect. We're going to protect you from COVID. All these things that we taught you to be afraid of, we're going to protect you from these things, which is very similar to how the mafia used to do their negotiations. They would create a threat and then say, we're going to protect you from the threat that we just created. And then you got to pay us money and we'll do that, right? And so, ultimately what they're having trouble with Ice Cube is they're angry because they don't expect masculine leadership from the Black community. Masculine leadership tends to be, I don't need to be your friend. I don't need you to protect me. Fuck you, pay me. Like I'm not here to hug you. We ain't buddies. Just fuck you, pay me. And that's Ice Cube's approach. Fuck you, pay me. And so really you're just seeing, not just a lot of what I perceive to be slave talk, but you're seeing a lot of that feminized talk, and it's running up against masculine energy. That's why you have a lot of Black men who are like, you know what? I don't care if Trump is my friend. I just, but I just happen to like certain policies, or whether it's abortion or whatever the hell people are into, business, so support for businesses. I don't think men want to be coddled, taken care of, and put in a welfare state. That's not the natural state of a man. The natural state of a man is to be self-determined, to go out and create his own destiny. So a lot of Black men I talk to, they want to be business owners. They want to be kings. They want to be leaders. And they feel like, even a guy like a Trump, who we know doesn't like us very much, at least Trump will understand if we want to have a conversation about business loans, as opposed to conversations about, protecting us from COVID or whatever. Like that doesn't interest a lot of men. That's why you see a lot of brothers just saying, I'm not interested in doing what we did last time.
What about the plans? Have you reviewed all the plans, and what are your thoughts on Biden's plan for Black America, which is Lift Every Voice and Sing, I believe, versus Trump's Platinum Plan?
You know what? As of this point, both of the plans are bullshit. They're just talk, right? Neither plan. The contract with Black America is real. I mean, if you get somebody to really hold to that and respect that, that would actually create real progress in the community. I reviewed that plan. I know that plan better than I know the Platinum or the Lift Every Voice plan. From what I read with the Biden plan, and this is what from when I talked to Dr. Claude Anderson, he seemed to feel the same way. The Biden plan is what I call white liberalism in blackface. It's basically, like, okay, here's a bunch of shit we were already going to do. Now we're going to put some blackness on it and just kind of make you guys feel included in the process, because we're all about inclusion and diversity and equality, right? Whereas the Platinum plan is Trump's last-ditch effort to see if he can steal enough Black voters to keep the Democrats from winning the election. He's not really trying to get people to vote for him per se. He's just trying to get them to not vote for Biden, right? We know that game. And he doesn't need a majority of us. He just needs a little enough to chip away at the coalition. I know all of that, right? So I don't really take the plan seriously, either one of them. I think that what the issue is that we need leadership. We need Black leaders who really want to be Black. We need Black leaders who say, well, I'm a full-time Democrat, but I'm a part-time Black man, or I'm a full-time Republican, but I'm a part-time Black man. Because at the end of the day, your energy, your power is going to be funneled into the Democrat or Republican Party. That's where you're putting your resources, right? We need we need Black leadership. It's just Black. And that means that, whichever party I'm loyal to at the moment will depend on who follows through and delivers the resources to the community. So the real test, first of all, in this election, Black people have already won this election, in my opinion. We already won the election, meaning no matter who white guy, which racist statement, Cube made a statement, whether people agree with it or not, it's going to change how they approach our community in the future, because they see this new dynamic occurring. They don't know what to do with this. They don't do it intelligent and empower Black people who have big platforms. Tariq Nasheed, has got 300,000-400,000. I got a couple 100,000. They don't know how to deal with that. These are like real numbers, right? Mm-hmm. But I think also as we move forward after the election, another big battle that will take place is, whichever person gets elected, let's make sure they stick with whatever plan they put together before the election. So if Trump gets reelected, yeah, we're gonna hold you to that Platinum plan. And if you don't meet with us, we're gonna talk about it on a regular basis and talk about, whatever you're not doing, right? If Biden gets elected, we're gonna hold you to Lift Every Voice, right? And at the end of the day, the measuring stick will be, can you show us tangibles where the Black community is better off under your presidency than they were before? If you can't show that, then we're going to, in 2024, we're going to kick you in that ass. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's how I think our strategy should be going forward.
What do you think about the the state of Black leadership right now? Where do you see us?
Well, we don't really have a lot of Black leadership. We have a lot of feudal, tribal kind of battles. You know, with one person over here got a big Instagram account and they're talking shit on their account. Somebody else talking smack on their account. And a lot of the so-called Black leadership is actually what I call Negro managers. And Negro managers are people that basically treat Black people like a commodity like KFC chickens. Your job is to corral all the chickens so you can deliver them to KFC so you can get paid. So you have a lot of Negro managers in the election. They all pop out where they become buddies with whatever Black person the Democratic Party has grabbed onto, whether it's Kamala Harris or whatever. And so if you notice, Roland Martin, Angela Rye, people like that, they all have personal relationships with Kamala Harris. Well, this is a transaction, and it benefits them. It benefits the elite very much, right? So the transactional aspect is, look, you help me corral some Negroes. You be a good manager. You go manage and corral some Negroes, make them vote. Put pressure on them. Don't tell them why they vote, and just tell them that that's what they got to do. Find the sheep in the crowd, and if you deliver enough sheep, then when I get into the White House, I'm gonna let you ball out. You're gonna get invited to the Christmas party. You might get to do an interview with me on Air Force One. You'll get an exclusive book deal, or whatever, and you get to run around bragging because that you are friends with the Vice President of the United States. That's what that's all about. So I think with Black leadership, we have Black leadership. Dr. Claude Anderson is Black leadership. Let me think, who's some other people that are really out there really leading? George C. Frazier is Black leadership because he's talking about Black people. To me, the defining factor of Black leadership is somebody that is pursuing innovative approaches that can be implemented by Black people without white people's permission, that will empower us and make us a stronger community. Like that to me is Black leadership. You're leading Black people to be stronger and better and more capable of overcoming and surviving their current environment. A strong leader does not empower you by reminding you that you have no power, and that the only way you can have power is if you bow to whatever white man they're bowing to. That's not Black leadership. That's not freedom at all. That's white supremacy.
Okay, what makes Ice Cube different than the other elite, or the he's a rich guy. He's going to be good no matter who the president is. What makes him any different?
I think that what makes Cube different is that Cube goes out of his way to distinguish himself from the elite. He has if you pay attention now, since he's been talking, he's got a lot of friends that have Instagram accounts with 20 million people on it, and none of those people are stepping out and supporting him. He's kind of going out on his own. I'm thinking about all these people that were in movies with him, made albums with him, that just know him from the parties. I was stunned. Like, if Ice Cube's calling a guy like me, and I'm out there, but I'm not, I got, I got 250,000 on my Instagram. That's nice, but that ain't 15 million. I'm just sitting there. I did ask about that. I said, where are your friends right now? Where are all these Hollywood types and the elite, And I'll just say that that right there, the fact that they're not stepping out and rolling with him, it says something about what he's doing, that he's not afraid to go out on the battlefield by himself and to follow his own path. And I commend that, So I think, yeah, he might have some money in the bank, but a Black person who has hundreds of millions of dollars, who has no incentive whatsoever to go back into the hood and deal with the problems of the hood, that person should be commended, because that's what you are. You are, when you're a guy like a Cube, and you have the presence of mind to acknowledge that I wouldn't be who I am without Black people. Black people gave me my culture. They gave me this gangster shit. You know what I mean? They gave me everything I have, and I was able to export this cultural authenticity to the world and make damn near $1 billion from it. I owe these people. Every rapper should be thinking that way. Dr. Dre should be thinking that way. All of them should, And so the fact that he's doing that, to me, that's just common fucking sense. Like, that's common sense. Like, you're supposed to go back and take care of the people that you left behind. And I think that if you think about this, a lot of guys, around that age and his age and my age, we remember the 90s, and we saw how many of our friends got sent to prison on little shit. Some of them still locked up, and just the torture they've gone through, and the mental illness and the disease and all the terrible things that they do to Black men in prison in these concentration camps. I just think that would haunt you. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, what I admire, what's interesting about Cube, if you think about it, you know, he was a player during that whole volatile era with Biggie and Pac got killed, and you know, he, Diddy, Snoop, and a couple other guys, and Dre, were able to come out of that and do very, very well. Where some guys didn't survive at all, some guys went to prison, some guys went broke, and I think that experience, that's trauma. Like, that's traumatic to just watch all these terrible things that happen, you know, behind the scenes and in front of the world, and to just survive all of that. I can't imagine that not haunting you for the rest of your life, to the point where you're like, okay, I got to go back and get these guys that are all locked up. I got to go look out for my people, you know, and
Right.
that's what a man is supposed to do. I don't understand why more black men don't do it.
Don't give back.
Yeah, just give back, reach back.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what if if you got 10 million followers on Twitter, what are you using that for?
Mm-hmm.
That's you know, that's arguably a 50 million, $100 million platform, and you're wasting it on stupid shit. You know, like that's just crazy to me. But that also speaks to the lack of of critical thinking that black people are given at birth. Like, a lot of our young people don't even know who they are. Cuba, I think, is different because somebody in the early age told him who he was, and he never forgot that. You know, that's why his music was so different. That's why he made Death Certificate and was rapping with the Nation of Islam and all that. That starts when you're a child. You know, Tupac, the way Pop was connected, you know, to certain elements of blackness, that starts when you're a kid. If you never get that as a kid, then you're not going to show that as an adult.
Yeah. What about, Cube getting in this so late? Like, for many who are on the ground, this is a precarious situation, and the fear is not fake. The fear is based on real actuals, some of which have to deal with um, uh, racism and what some call white supremacy, violence, and some are just whatever, everyday life. Me personally, I've seen an increase in aggressive behavior from not only white people, but other races as well. So I've been called the N-word from people that weren't even white, So I feel like folks have been emboldened over the last couple of years, whereas, back in the day, that didn't even exist. We squared up quick. But it feels much different. Do you feel under Trump this is the case, and perhaps people's fears are rooted in their actual realities? I mean, I know people that are frazzled, and I'm not so sure that, and these aren't men, will add, women in particular, that are really frazzled because of the climate.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say it's not real. You know, I think that we live in a divided country. I think no matter who wins the election, the division will continue. I mean, if the rednecks are not pissed off now, imagine how pissed off they'll be if Biden gets into the White House, or let's say there's a blue sweep and they start passing LGBT legislation everywhere. And I mean, they're gonna really be. I mean, their back will be against the wall. They really gonna get locked and loaded at that point. You know, and that's what war looks like. That's what civil war looks like. And I wish it wouldn't happen. What I really wish is I wish that the FCC was able to regulate the way information is shared on the internet, in a fair and ethical way where everybody had freedom of speech. But yet somehow we were able to have reliable news sources that people could go to get accurate information. You know, like, for example, there was a time where you got penalized for telling a lie on the news. You couldn't just go out there and say whatever. You know, I think that the way Fox News does business should be outlawed. CNN outlawed the way they do business. MSNBC outlawed, like Breitbart outlawed, like anything that's affecting the thinking of millions of people, just feeding them a bunch of lies. We need to get rid of that. And because remember, in the 70s or whatever, in the 60s and all that, you might have like Walter Cronkite or something. You had something that everybody knew that they were going to go out of their way to be unbiased. And I think it's a damn shame that you can call yourself a journalist and you're out here just making stuff up and spinning stuff in ways that don't make no damn sense. You know, and I was really stunned when I saw CNN really getting into that, because I always thought CNN was the most trusted name in news. You know,
Right.
and then when I saw them getting into the propaganda game because they hated Trump so much, That really disappointed me. I really thought CNN was going to hold out and be like, look, we're going to try, we don't like this guy, but we're going to report everything accurately. They don't. Every headline is just instantly like anti-Trump. And I'm not even a big supporter of Trump, but then so what I started doing was I read CNN and then I read Fox and I compare each group's lies. And then I go watch C-SPAN or maybe, watch the whole press conference myself so I can know really what was said instead of what somebody told me was said. Yeah. And believe me, man, when you do that, you start seeing things. You're like, oh my God. I live with a professor. Like, that's what we do. And so we're deep thinkers about everything. And we're both stunned by the number of lies that are just propagated throughout society.
It's funny, you mentioned the lies. You made headlines just today, I think, or something like that, because you mentioned some reference to Hitler and Biden, and you retweeted it, and then it went all over the place. What do you have to say about that?
Well, if you listen to Adolf Hitler talk about the Jews, the difference between what Hitler did versus what some hillbilly redneck who, racist might do, is that Hitler's shit was methodical. It was diabolical. The Nazis were fucking scientific engineers that said, we're going to engineer the most efficient methods to exterminate as many Jewish people as possible. Right. So when I go back and I listen to Joe Biden talk about his crime bill, and he was talking about, the predators, these predators in urban communities that come from single parent household, you know what the fuck he was talking about, young black males. He said there's 100,000 of them, and we must remove them from society, right? I said, okay, so you're talking about using the massive industrial might of the United States government. We are the greatest industrialists on the planet. We mass produce better than anybody. That's why we have more guns in America than people, because we mass produce shit. So you're talking about taking the massive industrial might and the massive wealth of the United States, $10 billion, and applying that to the sole purpose of exterminating at least 100,000 young black males. That's genocide. That's some fucking genocide. And people need to understand that. Like, we need to make that shit real for people. People act like prison, I don't know what the fuck if they think prison is a goddamn summer camp. Prison is a terrible fucking place. Yeah. People get beat in prison, raped in prison, catch fucking AIDS and shit, die in prison. I mean, it's a terrible that is a concentration camp, and nobody connects to that idea because they're like, oh, well, it's just black men. Fuck you. You up here complaining about some guy from, some little kid from El Salvador who got locked up for 3 days when his family's trying to go across the border illegally. And you got all the sympathy in the world for that, but you ain't got no sympathy for my homeboy who went to prison and got raped and beaten so bad that he was mentally ill for the next 20 years. Y'all can kiss my ass. Like, that's some shit I'll go to war on because I seen it happen in my family. Right. You know what I mean? And I think if nobody's gonna stand, ain't nobody gonna stand up for black people, man, then what is wrong with us?
Look, there's a perception about you and even Cube that you guys are going really, really hard at Joe Biden, and Trump is getting sort of like off the hook or default sort of, not an endorsement, but it just seems like you guys are going really hard at the Democrats and Trump and Kamala. What do you say to that?
I would say that they should be happy that we're going after the Democrats and Kamala, because the day we stop talking about the Democrats and Kamala will be the day that they no longer have our support. If you think about it like a relationship, if a person in a relationship, male or female, is having an unmet need, sexually or otherwise, the first person they're going to turn to is the person they're in a relationship with. They're not going to turn to a stranger. If your wife wants you to have sex with her better, she's not going to go talk to the guy down the street. And you better hope that she doesn't, because the day that she starts really talking to him is the day that she's giving up on you. So if if you look at it in the same way, Q wanted to fuck with the Democrats. Like, he went to the Democrats first. He was very frustrated that the Democrats weren't listening. So he talked to the Republicans to let the Democrats know that he was not playing. And anybody who has a problem with that strategy cannot be a person who believes in freedom and liberation for black people, because you're literally trying to regulate who a black person is allowed to even have a conversation with. And that's a very dangerous line of thinking. It's really slave talk. So I would say that the reason that the Trump meeting happened is because Joe Biden wanted it to happen. Joe Biden made that decision for it to happen when he basically told Q, we're not doing anything, that we're not going to budge an inch we'll talk to you after the election. Well, talking to them after the election ain't gonna work because you lost all your leverage. You have your leverage before the election. You get what you want when they need you. Right? Just negotiating 101. Like imagine if a guy was talking to a girl and the girl's like, look, I want you to take me to a nice steakhouse. And he says, well, give me some sex for about 6 weeks and then I'll think about it. Right. That's not going to work. She's giving away all her leverage. She needs to say, no, you need to earn this before I make a further investment in you. So I think that any perception that we're just focusing on the Bidens is actually giving them more credit than they have actually earned. We really should be talking about both parties, but remember, when we're talking about you, that means that we're going to seriously think about voting for you. Now, if they want us talking about Trump, then yeah, whoever I vote for is who owes me. It's like if I go to a store, wherever I get my money is where you're gonna owe me the product. If I'm an employee, the people that owe me money are the people I work for. So if I go and work at Walmart and I work hard 40 hours a week, and then I show up at Walmart and I say, where's my check? Where's my money? Pay me. And then Walmart says, well, why are you nagging us? Why are you talking bad about us? Why don't you go talk bad about Target? Well, I don't work for Target. I work for Walmart, right? But if you want me to go work for Target, I can do that too, right? And then that's when I go over and take my resume to Target and I say, Walmart ain't doing right. So that's what's really going on. You talk to the politicians that owe you. The Republicans do not get 90% of the black vote. When they get 90% of the black vote, then we should spend 90% of our time talking about the Republicans. But ain't nobody trying to be a Republican. We're all Democrats. So that's why we talk about Democrats.
Okay. Has Donald Trump and the Republican Party made any promises, or I guess there's this $500 billion. What have they specifically sort of conceded on?
You know what? I almost have to look up the platinum plan because I don't even take it that seriously, to be honest with you. Only because he's had 4 years in office and he hasn't delivered, on any of these things. So his credibility is very limited because, Donald Trump likes to make up facts as he goes along. We know he's a liar, but I like the fact that the plan is even out there because what it at least does is it says that if you are going to play ball with him, you have some ability to hold him accountable to something after the election's over. So to that extent, the platinum plan has potential. It sounds good, but it's really great in terms of create. Let me see. I'm looking at it right here. 3 million jobs, creating 500,000 new Black-owned businesses. Okay, I think that's a tangible number that we can count. Increased access to capital in Black communities. Safe urban neighborhoods. Okay, that part. I don't trust white people to protect me. Commit to working on the Second Step Act. I think that's good. I think that the same pressure that's put on Biden about criminal justice or economic support can and should be put on the Trump administration because they're both playing the same game. They're both playing the symbolism game. Both of them have been part of situations where one person got out of jail and they mass marketed that one person being released as if that matters. It doesn't mean anything. Or if one guy gets shot by the cops and killed and Ben Crump shows up and he gets a check and they go and they sue the police department, that's good for their family, but that does not change the system. That's not systematic. You see, the difference between the symbolism and the systematic is when you look at what Joe Biden did. He was effective on a systematic level of exterminating Black people. He said, I don't want to go get 2 or 3 Black people. I want to go get 100,000, right? So I think the same thing is true when you talk about economic justice or criminal justice. Let's not go help 1 or 2 people. Let's go help 100,000. And then you're really getting somewhere.
Right. Did you work on the contract for with Black America? Did you work on it?
No, I did not work on it. I did make one suggestion that I think you might have implemented. I'm not sure, but I did suggest that they put it in a bullet point form so that people could see, almost like a 10-point plan. But no, by the time we had talked, he had already put that together, and I looked at the names of the people that were involved, and these were real serious scholars, heavy hitters. A brother named Derek Hamilton, if I'm not mistaken, from Ohio State. I'm an Ohio State alum. This brother, I think if I'm not mistaken, I think he was a chaired faculty member at Ohio State. In the world of academia, that's a big deal. Right. Like you earn respect. Like all PhDs are not created equal. You got the smart ones, you got the dumb ones. He's one of the smart ones. So Q worked with some real people on this shit. It wasn't no shit with some rapper just threw together a piece of paper in the middle of the night. That wasn't how it was done at all.
Good. Okay. I didn't know that. That was one of the big questions I had. And yeah, his name did pop up in social media wise. They kind of inferred. I mean, social media, what you can never trust it,
Right.
right? But suggested he had written the whole document, not just consulted. So hopefully we can get in touch with him. Um, well, okay. So in terms of yeah, your relationship with Cube, what is that?
Just as a supporter, ally, maybe a little bit of an advisor. We would just talk, and he tell me what's going on and what's happening in certain conversations, and I just give my 2 cents on it. And what separated him from other people who have kind of jumped into space, because a lot of people are jumping in and becoming political because of COVID. A lot of the artists aren't touring right now, so they're starting to reflect on the world, right? And who knows, maybe maybe some of them need attention. I don't know what it is, but I've been really pleased by some of the participation I've seen. But some of it has been very disappointing. It was very disappointing, what Snoop did, what he did with Gayle King. I was disappointed when he called her, a dog hair bitch. I said, whoa, you took it too far. But if you take it that far, you gotta stand by your words. You gotta stand on it. You can't then start backpedaling, and then apologizing and then apologizing and apologizing like over and over and over again, like that. That really, to me, that's exactly what they want. The enemies of the black man want to see the black man on his knees, and so Snoop dropped the ball and left a lot of people frustrated. But some people have done great. Charlemagne the guy, when he jumped in and interviewed Joe Biden. Charlemagne and we talked a few times, of course, and I love it. I love it when the entertainers use their power to take the really smart questions to these politicians who are expecting artists and athletes to be stupid. And I don't think they are stupid. I think that you ignite their intelligence, they become some of the most brilliant people out there. So Charlemagne, the most significant thing that's occurred is that Charlemagne started reading things like Powernomics. And we started linking up and talking about Dr. Claude Anderson and things he teaches. And Dr. Claude Anderson does not bullshit. He's got a power plan for black people, unlike anything that any of these fools are talking about. So Charlemagne is carrying the spirit of Powernomics into an interview with Joe Biden. I already knew that white boy was gonna go crazy. He's not used to that, So Charlemagne did an amazing job. I was so proud of him. But then you step up, and then of course the next reaction is they go to a Cardi B, and it goes back to the Malcolm X House Negro Field Negro stuff, where Malcolm said that they didn't go kill the runaway slave or the out of control slave. They would go just get a house Negro up behind them. So Cardi B unfortunately positioned herself as the house Negro. Now, I'm really wondering about that whole transaction, where they holding some over her head. Cardi B's got some serious legal issues, with her, with her alleged gang affiliation, all that stuff. So I kind of wondered, was this something where you were required to play ball in order to avoid some of these other consequences or some of the things that might be going on in your life? And that is a problem for black people, because that's where, when you talk about things like COINTELPRO and things that brought down the Panthers and agents and spies and all that, these were just compromised black people, who were in the legal system and had stuff being held over their head. So when Cardi did that interview, I felt like that was a step back for black people. Like, who the hell said Cardi B needs to be the person that's even in this conversation? But that is the game. That's the game that's always been played. So you have some back and forth, back and forth. The most proud I've been is Cube. Kanye's made me proud sometimes. Sometimes he confuses me. I think Kanye, unfortunately,
How so?
Kanye confuses me because Kanye, first of all, he's such a Trump guy, and I respect anybody's right to be a Trump guy. I really do. I have family members that are Trump people. I don't really think that's a bad thing in itself, because you live in a supposedly free country. You should be allowed to vote whoever you want. But I think it's that to be a leader, you have to be built a certain way. Like, you have to have a lot of your ego is kind of pushed to the side. Like leadership is service. And I think Kanye is doing the right thing. I think Kanye is striking some amazing chords and using his platform in a positive way. in certain areas. But then there's always also that other part of him that's just Kanye. Kanye's kind of, he's kind of in love with Kanye. And he also, is in love with his view of the world, with whatever his mental health challenges might be. So he's been a little bit all over the place to the point where I wouldn't trust him in the White House or anywhere near the White House, right? But I can appreciate where his heart is. So Kanye's confused me a little bit. I did talk to him. I've only talked to him once. That conversation was a good conversation, but it didn't feel the way it was like when I talked to Cube. When I talked to Cube, I felt like I was talking to a guy who felt like I don't even want to do this shit. Like I don't even like I want to do it, but I don't want to do it. Like this, somebody else is supposed to be handling this. We're supposed to have leadership handling this. Y'all ain't doing the fucking job. So I'm on vacation from COVID. I got $500 million in the bank. He didn't say this, but this is me paraphrasing what I see. And so, so I'm not owned by anybody. I'm gonna go out here and do for my people what I'm supposed to do. And so he reached out and he reached out not as a teacher, but as a student. He wanted to talk to people because he wanted to understand what was going on. No different from like if I decided I wanted to be a rapper, I had to go talk to the best rappers and really learn how to do it, So he came in and was like, what's the issue? Like, explain this, can you break this down? And so I would see him go into interviews, and because he's very bright, and you remember, if you look at his whole history, just the way he handled things at NWA and everything else, he was always the smartest one in the group, So it doesn't surprise me to see that now. So Cube is awesome to watch because Cube is like, he'll go talk to me or Dr. Claude Anderson or somebody else, and then you'll see him on TV and he's hitting the talking points like bow, 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 and I'm like, shit, this is a brother that I can like actually rock with because he's sturdy, he's strong and intelligent. That's it. If you're smart and you're strong, you got balls and brains. And a lot of people, they might be smart, they might know the right thing to do, but they don't have the balls to pursue it to the end. Or they might have balls but no brains, right? But he's got both. So I think, he's been great for this, man. I think that he's actually changed Black history just by stepping in and doing what he's doing. And I think in this election, I feel like Black people already won because no matter who is in the White House, the whole dialogue has now been shifted forever when it comes to Black politics. I did a survey on my platform. Now, the people that follow me obviously are very pro-Black and stuff like that, but they're encouraged, like they're okay with disagreeing with me, right? So I said, how do you feel about what Cube is doing? 96% of them, hundreds of thousands of people took this poll. 96% of them said, we love it. So the rank and file Black people on the street, they love it when you go in and take it to the man. But then you got people that have a different type of energy. And honestly, I think some of it might be a little bit gender-based as well. You have in the community, you have those that are more traditionalists, that either men that want to be men or women that want to be next to real men and want to build families with those men. They want sturdy men. They're tired of they're tired of the LGBT shit. They're tired of this beta male shit. They're tired of this bougie Negro shit. They're tired of this integration shit. Like they just want like a strong community. Those people tend to rock with what Cube is doing now. The people that don't rock with it are like, these these guys who went to Brown University. Most gay people, mostly like people that read The Root and shit like that, like they're not feeling none of this because the Democratic Party, that's their thing. The feminists, they hate it, right? And if you think about it, right, Cube does have that, that mixed history in terms of the music, right? And
Oh, yeah.
I can understand if I'm a Black feminist why I would find some of that music from the 90s especially to be quite objectionable, right? He's matured since then, but he has to answer for that. So I get that, but I think at the end of the day, it's just one of those things where certain voices have to be added to the mix. And I think that people just aren't really used to the heterosexual, masculine, Black male voice being part of the dialogue. Our community's been turned into a community full of feminine people and women. And so that's another reason why I personally think what he's doing is really great for the world.
I talked to a gay brother the other day, and he didn't echo your sentiment, but he did express disdain. And where did you, I mean, the gay, the LGBTQ community is a part of the conversation. Do you think, disproportionately so? Is that what you feel? Or is that?
Yeah, Yeah, it is. The Democrats and liberals lean heavily in that direction to the point where they give a disproportionate amount of power to a certain, you know, a certain corner of the black community. And that's offensive to people because there are some people, most black people are not going to beat you up because you're gay. You know, they're not going to go and harass you or not give you a job. A lot of black folks go to church with people that they know are gay and they do not care. Most people I know in the black community that are on that more conservative tip are like, just don't bother us with what you do in the bedroom. Whether you're a man who's sleeping with 14 women or a man who's sleeping with 14 men, like just whatever, like that's your business. And I think that they're just offended by this boldness that was injected in by the Obama administration because a lot of leadership of the Democratic Party. Let's just be clear: Andrew Gillum ain't the only one who's living a double life. I mean, you know, there's a lot of people doing that, and my heart goes out to him because, you know, I can only imagine how challenging it would be to live in a world where people want to hit you upside the head with a Bible and condemn you just because of what you're attracted to. Like you don't like I didn't decide to be a black man who likes big booties. I just was born that way, you know. So I can't imagine like being persecuted for that, right? But I think at the same time, it's kind of like, you know, when you're going around bashing people over the head with a certain let's say you call it a lifestyle choice or sexual preference, or you're getting into all this transgender stuff where you got 8-year-olds being told that they can be a boy or a girl, or you're sending your daughter to school and she got to go to the bathroom with a boy, you know, because the boy decided he wants to be a girl that day. I think that we have to be careful about thinking that we can fight for our own rights by trampling on the rights of others, you know. And I think that I know that there are a lot of black people who are just offended by that, like the fact that you have black folks, most of whom work for these white liberal establishments, because we became historically liberal because of the civil rights movement, which was heavily backed by the communists, socialists, and Marxists. That's why if you listen to a lot of the rhetoric, whether it's in the civil rights movement or in the Black Panthers, a lot of Marxism was right in there. And their whole history, if you go back and you look at leftist movements for the last couple hundred years, their whole movements have always been around societal disruption. Like we want to disrupt capitalism, we want to disrupt the police state, we want to disrupt authority, we want to disrupt the nuclear family. So you move forward and all that connects right in, that wires right into Black Lives Matter. When the first thing they say is we want to disrupt the nuclear family, a lot of black people ain't with that. We like shit. Our nuclear family's already been disrupted. We're trying to rebuild that shit. We don't need you disrupting that. You know, and that's your number one priority. Like, really? You know, so you know, I just think that black people get misled very easily. And I think that we've been used as pawns. And what's happened is we traded in one form of white supremacy, fascist-based white supremacy, which is going to come from the right, for leftist white supremacy, where basically they're going to love your black ass all day long until you start standing up for yourself. And the biggest enemy in their mind in the black community, when I'm a white liberal and I'm really controlling the black community and running things, my biggest enemy is the masculine black male, because he's not going to just fold and bow and follow me around and do what the hell I say. So my goal is to get rid of him. And I think that wires right into why Joe Biden didn't care that he sent away hundreds of thousands of black men to prison. Also, if you pay attention just even to the optics of it all, here you got Kamala Harris, married to a white man, serving another white man, and then they got the nerve to get mad because black men ain't with that shit. You know, and I just tell the black women, I'm like, well, who Kamala chooses to marry? I'm thinking about it. She went to an HBCU, she met thousands of black men, so she's marrying Doug? Okay, fuck it. I mean, you can marry Doug. But I asked the sisters, I said, y'all love Barack Obama. I said, would y'all have loved Barack Obama if he had passed up all the black women and married a white woman? Would y'all have loved him the same? And they don't want to answer that question, right? Yeah. So black men have a reason and a right to feel like, not so much to the point where we want to, you know, kill off whatever Kamala's trying to do, but to the point where we're like, no, we're going to be heard. This is our community. We're going to speak up. And the other thing too about masculine leadership, in my opinion, is that there is a point where masculine leadership exerts power. Power means that you pursue your agenda despite the opposition of others. It means if you don't ask for no fucking permission, you don't care if people like you. And I think that's what I like about this whole movement right now, is what you're seeing is masculine leadership. It's not just Cube, but Cube is like the black man's Oprah. So a lot of brothers, when I'm looking in the chat, there's hundreds of thousands of black men who are right there aligned with that. And then black women who are cheering them on because they want to see the black man rise again. They want to see us in the throne. So I'm excited, man. I think this has been one of the greatest, like 2-3 month periods, in recent Black history.
One thing I want to push back on, maybe just a little bit, is the no. I think Black men have a lot to atone for as well. I think that we have done a pretty poor job, especially in the hip hop space, of treating our women pretty bad, man. I mean,
Yep.
Cube, as much as I like him, man, he used to call women bees, and also, I know that he had an intellectual kind of thought behind that. This woman's a bee, that woman's a lady, that type of conversation. I'll never forget the song "You Can't Fade Me," and
Oh yeah.
and that was like, so I think, and then obviously the Black Power movement, you would see a lot of abuse in that as well, and you would then see a brother with a white woman, and
Mhm.
that's kind of a cliche, but it's rooted in a lot of truth.
Man,
Um,
you are. I can't even. If you pushing back, we pushing together on that because
mhm,
you're 100% correct. I will say that every day. I mean, I just feel like we just need to keep apologizing to Black women because we failed. We because of the circumstances, but largely also because of some of our own actions, or the actions of those who were more prominent. Like everybody's not a rapper, right? Um, but there was something that went left in the culture,
mhm.
and when you go back and you just sort of saw where hip hop kind of just took on that real dirty element, and then there was no sort of reconciliation for that. There was no remorse over that. Like I remember asking Killer Mike about that. I said something to Killer Mike. I said, yeah, man, but some of that music, da 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 da. And then he started to intellectualize and explain it away. And I'm like, no, we can't explain it away just because it was popular.
Yeah.
And I remember what was very frustrating about that is even a lot of the women, went right along with it.
Mhm.
When I started, listening to lyrics real carefully and like analyzing the lyrics, I remember I said this little Wayne song. He said, "I'm gonna take your girl, make her nut for me, then slut for me." Remember that?
Mhm.
Oh, what, steal
Mhm.
from me, then kill from me, and of course it'll be your cash, and then I'll murder that bitch and send her body back to your ass. I
Right.
said, well, he just talked about kidnapping you and making you into a prostitute, and making you rob people, and then murdering you and mailing your dead body back to your boyfriend. That does not bother you at all, right?
Nah, I've said the same thing. I've said the same thing to a lot of women. I'm like, yo, don't, a lot of the women now that I do know personally that are very anti hip hop. I'm like, no, but you were there. You were in the industry in the '90s. You were supportive of the rappers that you now are, talking bad about. So
Yeah,
they got some atoning to do too.
I think everybody does. I
Yeah.
mean, it got so terrible, and there was nothing, like there's really nothing. At least I felt powerless to do anything about it.
Yeah.
Because I don't have the platform the rappers have. I mean, I link a lot of that definitely back to white supremacy because it's the corporations that decide what message is going to get pushed, and if they decided that message wasn't going to be allowed out, then it wouldn't be allowed out. And so I think that they have a tremendous amount of responsibility for that. But I think ultimately, um, to whatever extent they don't take responsibility, I'm okay with taking responsibility and just saying, you know what? When I look at a guy like Ice Cube, the good outweighs the bad. I see a guy he's not 22, he's 50, 51, right? So, I think there's room for redemption there. And I think that we can still love him. But if you were to sit me down and say, okay, I need you to justify every Ice Cube lyric in the 1990s, I couldn't do that shit. I'm not going to. You know, it's like with anybody in hip hop that I worked with. Russell Simmons, I worked with Russell on mass incarceration. He was an extraordinary partner on that. But when it came down to like whatever Russell might have done in the 90s, I don't know. I wasn't in that scene at all.
Right.
So I think that all men, we can't look at all Black men and hold all Black men accountable for that, because I know a lot of Black men who wasn't down with none of that.
Mhm.
And when you did push back, it was even more frustrating for me. I was a little nerdy guy. I mean, you know, 90, like all through the 90s, you know, like I was following along my favorite artists, you know, Ice Cube and Spice One and stuff like that.
Mm.
But I was in graduate school and I'm like some nerdy little dude just trying to get a date, you know, and it was very frustrating and confusing for me. And because the rappers have the money and the power, and then everybody's imitating the rappers and the girls are attracted to that. So you meet, you know, you're just a regular dude who respects women, who's going to grad school, trying to make a life for himself. And some girl isn't even interested in you. She thinks you're boring, you know, because she wants a thug. You know, I'm like, why would you want to date a thug? A thug will beat your ass and kill you. Like, I'm
Right.
not gonna be thinking that. Like, you know, so it's hard for me. And when you just sitting there, and that's why some of that stuff became so toxic for our culture, because you're injecting all these poisonous ideas to men, and the guys, the little nerdy young guys like me, who are like, damn, like, okay, so respecting women is not gonna get a woman's attention. I gotta act like I'm ready to beat her ass or kill her or call her out of her name, you know, and some guys like internalize that. You know what I mean? So it was a shit show for everybody.
Yeah, yeah. Who would you like to see president? If I mean, actually, yeah, in a perfect world, as well as, you know, this November. I mean, we got to pick somebody.
Well, I'm not gonna vote for the president. I'm gonna vote in the local elections. That was the decision I made, just because people were very upset about me saying I'm not gonna vote. I wasn't telling anybody not to vote, but of course that with propaganda they spun it into Dr. Boyce is telling people not to vote. And in reality, I mean, I guess if I'm an influencer, then some people are gonna do what I do. So instead of saying I'm not gonna vote, I said I am gonna vote, but I'm not gonna vote for Trump or Biden. I'm just not going to do that. I'm gonna write in a candidate or pick a third party candidate. If I could ideally pick who I'd want to be president, man, that's a tough one. I think I'd want to get somebody who was um, who understands how to maintain relationships and get things done in a pragmatic way, but was idealistic enough to really care about what the United States is going to look like 30, 40, 50 years from now. You know, like, so maybe a really good CEO of a major corporation or something that, you know, I don't know, Tim Cook or somebody, or if it's a black person. I mean, you know, I mean, ideally, I'd love like Louis Farrakhan to be president or something, right? I mean, that would be great. But you know, but I think that, you know, whoever it is, I think that the person would have to be definitely in a place where they didn't need money from anybody. They have to be financially secure so they can focus on a higher purpose, and they would really have to understand the service of leadership, and also be a person who thinks things through on a very deep level. I think Obama thinks things through on a very deep level, but Obama was a little bit of a wimp. And I feel like to some extent, I think he was a tool of the Democrats. I think that some white boys just scooped him up and told him what to say, and he just did what he was supposed to do. So he wasn't the guy, you know. And also, I would love to see the presidency run by committee, just like maybe 3 or 4 people with different perspectives that could all really come together and vote on every decision and all that. But I can't think of any individual person. I mean, as far as like leading political candidates, I like Colin Powell a lot. You know,
Okay.
I used to like him. I mean, because you know, I'm a little more on the conservative tip. I'm not a Republican, but I could support a Republican. I mean, if he has some damn sense. You know, I don't think Republicans are the devil, because shit, I mean, some of that stuff the liberals come up with is crazy. I mean, it doesn't make any damn sense. But Colin Powell is a guy that just seemed like he had intelligence and wisdom and courage. He's put his money where his mouth is. Like soldiers are special in my mind because they're willing to actually go out and put their life on the line. Like a lot of these congressmen they'll send your child to war, but they wouldn't go to war themselves. You know, like a draft dodger should not be allowed to send people to war. You know, so I like Colin Powell a lot. I don't know. I have to really think about it in terms of who I want as president. I guess I have to go with Farrakhan.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate your time.